All right. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody had a good weekend and a good Thanksgiving. We're going to jump right into it because we tend to go over, but I'm also going to be taking a couple of just kind of things I wanted to address with the group is next week I will carve out 30 minutes and I'll send out after this call, most likely later today or tomorrow morning, um, a few choices of specific go-to-market strategies from like a tangible perspective. So literally, I'm gonna like somebody was sharing, for example, how they're gonna use their qualification form or survey. So I might use that as a case study, but share with you how you can leverage a qualification form for like a lead gen magnet and how you can use that across different forums that might be applicable to you. That's an example, but I'll share like three or four things that typically I see like earlier stage companies can that I suggest that they try that might work for them. And then you guys can vote on which ones we want to work through. But I'll share like a 30-minute kind of like workshop session around that specific tool or use case. So you guys can play around with that. Um, that's number one. And then number two is next week will be a full month. And so I'm gonna do and you guys will each individually receive kind of like a 1 month assessment report. So take it with a grain of salt. I mean, again, the whole point of this group is just to help you guys stay accountable for your project, right? So it's not, it's really to see kind of like as a check-in of like how you're feeling, in terms of momentum or lack of, and what you would like to challenge yourself to do better in the second month. But the whole idea is not for me to dictate, but kind of what I'm seeing and then you guys, kind of take that as with a grain of salt. Obviously, you guys have your own personal lives and everything else that's going on, but take it with a grain of salt to then be like, okay, I hear you. This is where I think I could actually work on myself or improve to be better the second month, gain more momentum, whatever it might be. Or it's like I want to hit the gas or accelerate on certain things I found valuable this past month. It's really kind of like I'm just going to take all the notes from all the stuff that I have for each of you guys and just send it to you one-on-one, and then we'll be able to kind of go through that as well. So just a few things for you guys to be a lookout for over this week. And then, yeah, we'll jump right into it now. So, all right. We can start now with Sarah S.
Hi, everyone. Hope you had a beautiful Thanksgiving. Chris, my mission was to create a founder-led piece of content with a clear call to action. And I actually, interestingly enough, couldn't believe I did it because I approached it with so much ego and perfectionism because of my background in filmmaking and human rights. And so I kind of couldn't create exactly a call to action. But what I did, which was interesting, and I don't know if your intention was to make me think about these things, was to create the bridge, that bottleneck that was kind of keeping me away from doing that. And so I
Uh,
created a very organic reel because I felt like my followers hadn't really seen me or talk about what I'm doing on Clipped particularly. So I created a call to went through my archives and created something that kind of bridged that. And for the first time, I actually, in planning that, I created a Substack piece, which I had
uh,
never done. I created my Substack. And that was really interesting. The first thing that actually sort of unraveled was the arc and what story I should be telling at this point, because I felt like whether what I was trying to say was to align with the needs of my ICP right now, or should I sort of speak to the macro level crisis, for example, in this particular instance, the algorithmic wasteland of social media, loss of originality through AI, or should I narrow the lens and focus on the three top problems that our platform is trying to sort of focus on? So that was one thing. The second one was uh, it actually got me thinking whether at this stage we're trying to fix too many problems, which I wouldn't have come to if I wasn't trying to make this content. This piece of content, I was like, okay, are we focusing on too many things? Because a lot of times I hear people who have been able to raise funds from or get into VCs, they have a very specific issue they're solving. Like we are becoming the Google for AI agents. We
mhm.
are becoming the Netflix for that. And I was wondering if I could come up with like a tagline like that. And it was a bit difficult for me. So that was interesting. And then the third one was, I guess, It wasn't, it actually got me thinking as to whether I should create an episodic founder series for myself because I have done that for big companies like such as
Sure.
Disney, Paramount, Netflix. And for me, it was the most difficult thing to do because I was like, okay, how do I even approach it? Do I bring in entrepreneurs who are working on this very thing that I'm doing because I've built a network? Maybe I should start doing that. Or should I just have myself talk about it, write about it, and sort of have a call to action on Instagram or different like LinkedIn and ask people what they think about it. So my I think I guess if I were to just narrow it down into like really 4 points, one was which core message should I lead right now with? The second one was I feel like I've got a bit of an identity crisis when it comes to actual the platform itself. And then how can I build a repeatable content system? Um, the fourth one is okay. I don't want to take too much time. I want to hear what you have to say.
Sure. So I mean, all great kind of like realizations, right? I mean, again, this is the same thing. I think all of you guys are starting to realize the more that you start talking about the idea, the more you start sharing it, more you start refining the story of your business, for again, go to market, for sales, for marketing, for whatever intention it's for, you're going to start fleshing it out, right? And I think um what the challenge is a lot of times we get in our own way, or we have this perfectionism like syndrome, or we want to like we want to presume how it's going to land versus letting the market dictate how it lands. So my challenge to you, Sarah, would be, um, now that you've come to these realizations, I think it's still kind of like the same thing is now what content do you need to get in front of your target audience? Like choosing the specific, like now you've kind of gone through this, you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't right. I created a Substack. Is this Substack now the right language that I should use for the audience? Without like overthinking it, but I think you need to simplify or dumb it down for the audience so that's very digestible. And so you don't want to make it too long, but make it like paragraph long of what it is you're trying to accomplish or what you would like for them to um, what kind of feedback you would like for them to give you, and then get that in front of that audience. And so whether that's posting a link to your Substack through your social or sending it through an email list to strangers, again, what we're trying to do is now get you to venture outside of your immediate like 7 degrees of separation circle that you've been accustomed to leaning on for feedback and start getting that cold market, feedback so that you can justify or validate some of the stuff that you've been hearing from the warmer people. So that's what I would say is like,
Okay.
what do you need to create and finalize to get in front of uh, your target audience?
And for that, do you think just because for me, I have been doing something on social on different platforms for a very long time. And I
Yeah,
felt like in order to kind of identify myself, I mean, what I'm doing is sort of the coming together, like a convergence of all the things that I've been doing in the past. Do you recommend that I have two types of content? One is more of a macrocosm, like more generalistic sort of ideology and philosophical issues that we're facing. And then have a different kind of content, which is more targeted towards the exact platform and the business that I'm like very specific, almost
yeah,
like,
very the second, right? So you don't
mhm,
need to create a bridge for people to understand who Sarah is historically and then
gotcha.
lead them into whatever your business is. You need to validate your business regardless,
Uh-huh.
right? So you're just leveraging the fact that it's almost like you are hiring yourself as a social media influencer, right? In this space to then just as a distribution channel.
Hmm.
So you need to use yourself as think about it that way and remove any kind of like thought that you have tied to it from a personal level, and then
I
just
see.
use it as a distribution channel. Because that's I'm imagining that's why you're using yourself is because you have a following or built an audience that's kind of mirroring your target audience for the business side, and so
Hmm. Hmm.
you're just leveraging it for that purpose. So look at it as a use yourself in that way. So
I
whatever
see.
you would ask somebody that you're paying an endorsement fee to, like what would you want them to do?
And for that, do I need to talk to the waitlist, the clients that I'm trying to onboard? Do I need to ask them what they want to hear? Or do you think I should just kind of focus on what I've written in our white paper and just go off of what we're solving?
I mean, however you got them onto the wait list, right? So, I mean, I think I would reference that as like a
Uh-huh.
starting point,
Hmm.
and use that as a way to see does that message then land with people that I
I
don't
see.
know or have any tie to.
So except that it will be trial and error for the
Yes,
first, I guess.
for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yep. And so that being said, which channel are you gonna leverage for
I
doing
was
this?
I was thinking Instagram and LinkedIn. Haven't tried LinkedIn before, but we'll see.
So you're gonna create you have a Substack post, correct?
Hmm.
Is that gonna be the call to action? People go to that.
I haven't posted it, but I've done it. I've finished it. So I'm going to post it today and tomorrow.
So you're gonna post that and then share that on Instagram and
Hmm.
LinkedIn.
I can do that. Yeah.
Okay. At minimum, because that's already done. But like if you want to create a reel or like again something separate from that,
Hmm. Hmm.
that's now more specific based on what
Yeah.
you've learned, I would do that
Yeah.
as well. So, but at minimum, it would be sharing Substack article via Instagram and LinkedIn. Because the
And
discomfort
Chris,
I'm sensing from you is like how to leverage your personal profile for your business. And I
exactly.
think you need to get over that hump.
I got you. And then do you think I should think about the episodic at this point or leave that for the later?
No, again, you don't have to overthink it. Episodic is a lot of work. It's going to be a lot more flushing out of the content. I would just
Oh,
focus on what like a one piece of video content would look like, and then
I
send and
got
then put that out there. And you might have to create 10 different versions of that to then
you.
understand what the theme of the episodic would actually be like.
Mm.
We
I
don't know
see.
what people actually care about from your life of like that they're going to want to digest, right? From the target audience that you're for your business, not for you.
Hmm. I see. Thank you.
Okay. Takeshi H.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, cool. So we had,
So sending out emails to the emails I script off the website.
yeah,
I just sent 20 because I was using my own personal email
okay.
address. I don't know. Like I heard you send too much, you get kicked out or banned or something. So I just sent out 20. Went to two stores. I didn't get a reply. Um, this week last week was Thanksgiving, Black
Yeah.
Friday. When I went to the store, they're all busy. So maybe that's why, but I didn't get anything out of it.
Okay.
So I wanted to
Uh,
ask you, what's the best way to send emails? Like blast emails and get it, like, because I heard you can make a new email address that's close to, what the company is, and then go on HubSpot and blast emails or
yeah, so I mean, let's go back to this real quick, right? So
yeah,
you had created you had a script now. You have a bunch. You were able to start getting a list of contact data of stores from Texas. This jewelry stores, right, from Texas. Now
yeah,
you're getting California, Florida, and New York.
yeah.
Do you have those now?
I'm getting it today, all of them, but I have the Dallas right now, Texas one.
Okay.
So I live in Texas, so I want to get beta customers out of Texas first.
Okay.
Because
So got
yeah,
it. So I mean,
yeah,
all right, and so the goal was to find a way to contact owners. So you did 20
yeah,
emails, which is not a huge sample set. I don't know
yeah,
why you would want to scale it up if you haven't gotten a response yet. But like
yeah,
again,
yeah.
maybe you need to do another outreach this week to understand which channel you actually need to use to contact owners. Maybe it's not going to be emails, and maybe it's going to be phone numbers. Maybe it's going to be going and finding their social media handle. Like, do they have Instagram profiles and DMing them? Like,
Hmm.
I wouldn't scale up something that you haven't found results from in a manual way.
Okay. The
And
best like
20,
so far for me has been going to a show, like a trade show, and talking to the jewelry owner. That's been the best.
yeah, I understand that. So, like, if
Yeah.
so now a conference is seasonal, right? It's not
Yeah,
in your
seasonal, yeah.
control. It's not in your
Yeah.
control from a volume
Yeah.
perspective. What is in your control is you could actually literally go walk into jewelry stores in your look up 10-mile radius where you are and make a list and then go into the stores,
Yeah. Yeah. I
right?
went to two, but it was too crowded. It was, the week of Black Friday holiday season. So like like one of the person told me come back in January. This is our main season. We don't want to
Yeah.
do,
So how many
anything.
do you walk into?
I went to two around my neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've been to multiples before. This and then I get the message like this season is the most important season. Not the season, but now is the most important. All the sales are coming through
I
Black
understand.
Friday up to Christmas. So they're always like come back January.
Okay. So my question to you is, if you have competitors in the space, right? Are you saying that everybody in this space then would be, and I know this space is like, I mean, it's the same thing with anybody that's selling into e-commerce retailers, right? So it's like, uh, you might want to switch the goal, but it doesn't mean that you don't do the effort, right? So the goal or the outcome might be different, meaning you're not going to necessarily maybe score a customer or you're not going to score a direct meeting, but what is then the next best thing, right? So maybe it's scheduling something as a placeholder for January, right? So like,
Okay.
okay, you say come
Yeah.
back in January.
Yeah.
When in January can we do that? And can I pencil you in to my
Yep.
calendar, send you a calendar invite, just as a placeholder,
Yeah.
for a specific date and time in January,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
that might
Yeah.
be the thing that you do. And if
Yeah.
again, like especially if you're saying it's seasonal not right now, and then most likely anything that you're not putting yourself in a position where they cannot escape you, meaning that a physical one-on-one, I would
Yep. Yep.
maybe prioritize walking into stores because they
Yep.
cannot get out of they can't just hang up on you. They can't just
Yeah.
dismiss your email. They have to engage with you, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
or obviously they can, they could just be like, F off or whatever, but like that's fine. You need
Yeah.
to get to that to know that you're pushing too much. But I would do that. I would literally, because you're probably not going to get a lot of play anywhere with emails. You're probably not going to get anywhere with cold calls, even though you try that, right? But if you're telling me that this is seasonal and that they're going to be dismissive until the new year, then you need to do something that's they can't be very dismissive of.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
me, this goal would be like you accepting no engagement, like no response, is never an option. It's
Yeah.
meaning you can redefine the goal or the outcome, but to like not get an engagement doesn't make sense, right? So
Yeah.
to me, it would be like I would either propose this next week. Now that you have this week until next Monday, is either one of two things, and you tell me which one is more suitable for you, which is getting to one positive engagement. So just one positive engagement between now
Hmm.
and Monday, ideally through knocking doors or setting a certain number of doors you need to knock on. So meaning like I'm going to walk into 10 stores.
Okay. Yeah. Probably getting a engagement is better
Okay, so that might
for
mean
me.
you have to
The
walk into
result
20.
oriented. Yeah.
So it might mean you have to walk into 20 stores to get to one positive engagement, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
understand that, right? So, all
Yep.
right, one positive engagement. And a positive engagement to
Hmm.
me is going to be defined as uh, temporary, like a placeholder for a specific day
Yeah. Yeah.
in January, right? That's an
Yep.
example. It
Yep.
doesn't have to literally be that, but you got a commitment to like this is the time frame of which to follow up on, and it's as specific as you can get, right? So, and then you have to get that where you have a
Okay.
contact data to follow up with them at that point in time.
Okay. Like if I go into one store and they say no, do you think it's a good idea to keep on going back like
Yep,
once a month or something to follow
yep,
up?
yep. They're
Okay.
not going to remember you.
Okay.
Keep doing it
Okay.
until they do remember you,
Okay. Okay. All right.
right?
Sounds good.
So
So
yeah,
yeah,
however many
I'll do
to get
that.
to one.
Yeah, I'll do that one. I'll
Okay,
target the one. Yeah.
okay, cool. Thomas W.
Yes, hello.
Hey,
I think mine got overwritten by someone else, but last week's was a success. I ended up getting it all working. If anyone ever wants to vibe code, the answer was like massively simplifying. And so instead of trying to get the whole flow built, I went like one very small step at a time and was only going that way and ended up getting it all working. So that was done. And so now this week I'm onboarding the customer. So there's a bunch of steps that need to happen for that. I'm going to make sure they get like a full onboarding email with an outline of everything they need for their onboarding, setting up the onboarding meeting, and then following up for feedback, and then making sure that my technical co-founder is getting everything he needs and is doing everything the customer needs this week.
got it. Okay, so you were able to get the N8 and APIs all working?
Yes, it works
Okay.
beautifully, actually.
Okay. Cool. And were you able to test it already?
Yes,
Okay.
tested successful. I ran through a few documents. So It's for a different customer than the one I'm onboarding, but
Okay.
so it's now ready for them.
Okay. Got it. So this next week you're focused on onboarding the specific customer.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Good deal. Liz W.
I'm here.
Hey Liz.
Hi.
All right. Uh, so can you I'm not sure why this is cleared out, but you are proposing sign two contracts, close the loop with previous customer calls, VC strategy.
Yeah, I actually couldn't attend last week's
Yeah,
because I had a lot of
that's
calls.
right.
So my first week's goals were not fully realized. Half of it is realized. What was not realized was the contract signing, which I'm working on this week. Um,
Yeah.
and I guess like where we need a little bit of help with is the strategy in like following up. So we've had like four customers expressing interest, and where we get stuck on is like the logistics. So do we send them an email and asking like if they're okay with the pricing, or like do we just like send a contract and see if they'll sign? Like what have you seen works?
Um, yeah, I feel like we've kind of been stuck in this place for the past couple of weeks, which is I think you need to create the sequence, right? So you need to propose it, and I know we've talked about this one-on-one before too, but like you just need to create a sequence of events for each of these customers that you need to stick to, and you need
Okay.
to be okay with the outcome no matter what the outcome is,
Okay.
right? And what I mean by that is, and each sequence has to be as if you've done it 100 times before with 100 different customers that closed.
Right.
Right? Right now, it's just like you have like it's almost like you're afraid to go from interest to like
Yeah.
I'm no longer interested, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to dance around this when literally in their head, they probably already forgotten a lot of what you guys talked about.
Correct.
Okay. So to me, the first thing is to re-engage and make sure that they're still interested. Step one, but like you're gonna have to create what those 10 steps are. So step one is to re-engage interest. And
Okay.
then with a clear call to action, and each one might have a different call to action, meaning like one might you want to focus on getting them into another call with the right stakeholders. Another might be actually sending them a contract. Another might be discussing pricing. You're gonna have because I think yours is different ICPs, so it's like you need to figure out which one is most relevant to which, and you just need to map it out and stick to it.
Okay. Okay.
So to
I
me,
guess.
like between now and next week, it would not be signing two contracts. It would be like you're gonna still come back and be like, I sent these things out, but I didn't get them signed yet. Right. So to
Mm,
me, it's like you need to create the sequence and then share it on this call of what that is, and then the
Okay.
next week's would be sending them out and sticking to it.
Okay. Okay. I guess where I got stuck is I don't know what the industry standard sequence looks like.
It's so different. Everybody's
Yeah.
is different, right? Uh, for you, I mean, I would just engage with chat to kind of get a baseline of what it might be. But
Mm,
there is no industry standard. Like even if you're targeting the same customer profile, every company that's selling to that customer profile is going to have their own variation of a sequence because it depends on it's really dependent upon your marketing and sales team, how much education has already been laid out, how much education is required in the closing process versus the selling process versus the awareness process. So it all depends on how much they fully understand, the value being provided and then what the cost is associated to that value.
okay.
Now,
Okay.
if that was, I don't know, like I don't know how properly that was discussed, right? Like in terms of expectations set in previous conversations. So it's gonna be different, versus somebody that's like just selling to the exact same customer profile, but left the last conversation and said, all right, pricing is going to be 150K. I'm going to send you a contract that's going to be collecting half of that within net 30. right? And the other half after the pilot's completed after 60. You know what I'm saying? So like if that was the case, very different conversation than maybe some of these things that you're trying to do now,
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
right?
that's really helpful.
Um, and you need to basically, yeah, figure out how you're going to get to either yes, a buy or like they're going to say no longer interested. And you got
Mm,
to be accepting of the fact that if they're no longer interested, and then you need to do digging into deeper as to why. But for right now, you need to just create a sequence as to getting these four interested to a buy or no longer interested.
okay. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. That's really
Does that make
helpful.
sense? So, and a sequence can be anywhere from like, it's just more than one outreach, right? So it's like it could be anywhere from 2 to 10.
Mm,
And it could incorporate a call, it can incorporate an email, incorporate, text message, it can incorporate LinkedIn. It's across various channels until you get a response, right, of buy or no longer interested.
okay.
Okay.
Um, I actually had a specific question. We ran like a very industry specific workshop a couple of weeks ago. So we ran like two different engagements. One, we had a keynote speech at Johns Hopkins. So we had really good conversion from that keynote speech. And then we also ran a separate workshop that we hosted as a company. But so we had really good signups from like director level and above from like various like devices and like, drug companies, but very little conversion from that workshop compared to that keynote speech.
Yeah.
Um,
So your question is,
my question is, we're trying to figure out the why.
it's very easy. You just said Johns Hopkins.
Mm,
Nobody knows what your company does. People know what Johns Hopkins is. So Johns Hopkins bridges the trust gap, right? So imagine again, like I'm trying to sell you the cure for cancer, and I don't work with any medical institution, and I'm just trying to sell it to you because I'm a mad scientist creating my fridge. Are you going to inject yourself with it? Probably not. But if I did a speech at Harvard Medical School, right, and I say I have the cure for cancer, it's a different situation.
okay. That workshop was hosted with like leading like former FDA directors and very reliable like industry experts.
Okay.
We still
Again,
didn't get, yeah.
yeah, but like those leading experts as it relates back to your business is what,
Yeah, that's true. We didn't
right?
try to sell
Versus
our business very well.
No, I know, but like you're talking about conversion, right? So
Yeah.
you're trying to, it's almost like then for them, it might feel like a bait and switch, which is like, hey, we got exposure to, we heard from really reputable people, and all of a sudden now somebody's trying to get me
Right. Right.
to engage with this thing. What the hell is this thing?
Yeah.
Versus if it's Johns Hopkins, it's almost the way that probably is being presented. It's like Johns Hopkins is adding its like label of endorsement to this thing.
Mm.
Just think about it from your perspective as a consumer, right? Like, I mean, like somebody gives you like, a free entry, like Nike gives away a free entry into a marathon. Okay, great. And then all of a sudden Nike's like, but you got to buy our shoes. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So figure out a way to like not make it seem like a beta switch.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
Working up.
focusing on conversion, that's what you need to do, right? If you need to like say it's sponsored by this and then whatever, like, I mean, when we do our tech week events, it's the same thing, right? We have to, our sponsors that give us the space, pay for whatever, they get an opportunity to speak in front of that audience, right? To then share with them what it is, and then we're endorsing them for the partnership. So it doesn't come out of left field if Chase goes in, hits you up and be like, hey, we met you at this event.
Interesting. Okay. I love that. I love that you mentioned sponsorships. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
That still doesn't negate the fact that you need to create a sequence, and in the sequence you can leverage Johns Hopkins. You can leverage anything. Again, social proof. You guys have to realize is like it's a way for you to build trust because right now nobody has any brand equity or brand awareness, right? It's like just think of that analogy of like you're trying to sell the in your mind it's the cure for cancer, right? It's like it's not the product issue, it's the trust gap issue. How do you get a stranger to inject themselves with this serum, right? That you have again, like unless you're saying that you're a renowned Harvard like medical professional, how do you do that? Like how do you bridge that gap to getting to that place where you
Mm,
have that stamp of approval, that level of like social proof?
okay.
Because that's the core thing. And a lot of times it's reliant upon, there's different layers of that, but like you can leverage your work history. Again, like if you worked at a Fortune 500, right? Or you have a customer that's in the Fortune 500, right? Or you have an investor that's like one of the top 10 VC funds. That's how you start leveraging it. The furthest away would be like referencing a McKinsey article or like a Wall Street Journal article about like why it's important for what it is you're pitching them.
Okay.
But bridge the gap so people have some familiarity with whatever name drop you're doing.
Okay.
All right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Nick W.
Nick K, but yeah. How's it
Oh,
going,
sorry,
Chris?
Nick K. Yep. Good. All right, cool. Your job was to create a demo landing page. You
Yep.
did that?
Yep.
Okay.
So next step for me, this week looking to start to get a bunch of interviews scheduled and start to actually run these ICP interviews, use the first 15 minutes as more of like exploration, understanding what problems they're having, kind of validating some of my thoughts there, and then showing them the demo that I've now created.
Okay. Um, so that's my next question, which is like now you've created this demo landing page. There's two ways to go about it, right? So it's like Uh, you can either put that in front of them now with no context and then get the feedback on the demo on the landing page to see if it
Hmm.
lands. And maybe you don't need five, but maybe after like two or three, you're gonna either hear like, yep, it makes sense, and it's along the lines of what you had hypothesized, or it's not gonna be, right? And then it's like, okay, I'm not going to my next three conversations, I'm not even gonna lead with the demo on the landing page because it's completely off. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So to
Yeah.
me, it was just like because you've created this asset, you want to figure out if this asset's actually valuable,
Yeah.
right? And if it's not valuable, that's fine. Then you got to redo it. But now your intent is gonna be going out and getting the intelligence that you need to actually create a valuable asset. Or it is valuable, right? And you can validate it's actually valuable and makes sense. It's landing the way I want it to. And then you're going
Mhm.
to be able to dig deeper to the next step, which is uh, around the pain point that you're solving for and then the pain point threshold that they're dealing with.
So essentially kind of breaking these five interviews into start with a couple interviews where I'm just kind of
I
not
would,
leading them in any direction and getting
yeah,
reaction and then kind of going from there and doing the next
yeah,
steps.
yeah, correct. I would lead with the assets you already created
Uh-huh.
and see if it lands. And then if it does, great. Then you're not gonna be like, okay, hop off the call, but you're gonna then be able to dig deeper. Now that they understand the problem, you're just gonna continue to dig deeper, right? But because you've
Yeah.
already solved for that first part. But if it doesn't land after the first two, three conversations, and you hop onto it, and then all of a sudden they're like talking about something completely different that was like off topic from what your intention was, then
Hmm.
you're not going to be able to get to the second part because the first part's not solved, right? Which
Right,
is you don't
right.
understand the core messaging yet,
That makes sense.
right?
Okay.
So that's what I would do. So it's either you lead with the assets to validate, and if it's validated, great. Move to the second step, which is dig deeper around the pain point, right?
Hmm.
And then the possible solution, and then understand the intricacies of what that might be, so it can get you closer to that product. Uh, um,
And by digging deeper into the pain point, is it like specifically asking scale of 1 to 5, how big of a pain point is this right now? And then essentially in my demo, right, like what I specifically asked, like, does this solve your pain point?
Yeah, it's validating this. I mean, to ideally, it's not even just a scale of 1 to 5, but ideally you want to figure out a price tag associated to it, right? Because
Mm,
you need to charge people for it. So we tend to use the pain point threshold as like a low barrier to getting to that answer. But the ultimate goal is like the third step would just be like, okay, so how much are you willing to pay for this? And
yeah.
ideally, you already know what people typically are paying for a solution that's falling within the realm, right? So usually if you know who the target ICP is, you know that they'll typically at a certain size of company, they have X budget because they're spending on this alternative and this
Hmm.
alternative typically costs this. Or there's a list of alternatives that they need to, use. Maybe like they may need like 3 or 4 solutions to do the one thing that you're going to offer, right? And so
Right.
what's the total cost that they budget for those 3 to 4 solutions? So it's your job to do the homework to understand what that potentially could look like around
Yeah.
what budget they have. But it would be like, so you can lead in with it, but like that's the idea is like, so you're dealing with these pains, are you using these solutions? So you're spending on, I'm guessing about this much, right? Now, if I'm offering this solution that does these things plus X, Y, and Z, but I'm charging you 20% less or only 20% of whatever you're spending now, right? With
Right.
2X the return of cost savings, time savings, or whatever, like then would you consider making a switch? So you're trying to get to that as the end goal,
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. That
right?
totally makes sense.
So, but as you have to weigh it as you're having these conversations, you have to weigh how deep you can go where you don't scare somebody off, right? I mean, it's like dating, like you're trying to, you're not trying to get somebody to propose to like on day one, but you're really trying to like, you're ideally trying to shorten that cycle. So like, how can you know within a week, right?
Yeah.
Like this is somebody that's viable.
So
And
right now, my landing page does have kind of what would be our proposed pricing right now. Should I wipe that and
no,
let them
you can, I
kind of
mean, if
tell me, or
that's,
should I, is it okay to have
well,
it?
you can leave it there and see how people again, see how people
Okay.
respond, right? So if
Yeah.
you're like, okay, so you looked at it, you looked at the landing page, great, you know, with the price points, do these seem within ballpark of what you would pay for a solution like this? You know what I mean? Like you're just gonna
Yeah.
lead in with that, right? So then
Totally.
you can do that.
Okay. I know. I like that. I think that's, I'm aligned. Ultimately want to know if this is something they'll pay for.
Yep, exactly.
Cool.
Cool. Ilya G.
Hi, yeah,
Yep, cool. All right, so you sent 30 emails, reached out to 5 people on LinkedIn.
yeah, yeah. So basically, yeah, I sent all, to those recent signups. I got only one conversation from all of those. Yeah, and then I started to reaching out to like basically on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, no calls so far. So I guess just carry on with it
Okay, so you sent 30 emails and you reached out to 5 people on LinkedIn. You got one, what does one conversation mean?
over email.
So you got a response,
Yes,
positive or negative?
positive.
Okay.
Yeah, the person was basically told me that yes, he sees a lot of potential in this product also, but yeah, some features are lacking. Yeah, basically,
Okay.
and yeah, but yeah, it was helpful, but I guess it's very little feedback.
Well, this is also very little volume, right? So keep
Yeah,
that. So 5 people on LinkedIn is not a lot. One positive response you got from email. And then why were they not willing to go out and book a meeting?
uh,
Did you try to get
I
them a
don't know.
meeting?
Yeah, I know. Didn't get another response about this meeting.
Okay. So I would continue to follow up again, right?
Mhm.
Um, let's see here.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Okay. So having 4 calls, this is again a very non-specific exercise, or sorry, goal. I would either do it one way, which is like do whatever means it takes to get to 1 call, or you're gonna set yourself up for another minimum volume. And I would say like send 100 emails and reach out to 40 people on LinkedIn over a week. And it's up to you. It could be takes less than that to get to one call booked, or it might
Mhm.
take more than that to get to one call booked. But that to me is definitive and attainable.
Okay. And do you have any tips, like just basically finding people on LinkedIn, kind of using the search and just yeah, writing cold messages and asking for a call, or like
Yeah, I mean, again, like I think you gotta remove any ego and use and appeal to the sympathetic nerve, right? So it's like, my name's Ilya. I am first time founder. I'm looking to build this thing, and I would love your feedback on it. It's extremely critical for however you want to position it, like whatever your personal story is, I would lean
Mhm.
into it, and you're basically trying to strike a nerve of getting them to feel bad enough that they'll give you some like 5 minutes of their time.
Mhm. So kind of evoking some emotion at least.
Absolutely. Like that's gonna be more response. Like my one dying wish is that, I want to start my own business. I've always had this since I was 5 years old, right? If I led with
Yeah.
that, you're already engaged. I can see it in your face, right? So you're already engaged. That's not my true story. But if whatever your true story is, that's gonna get somebody to be like, and okay, like I have the time, I can do this. Now, if you're leading with, I built this thing and you're a perfect fit for it, it doesn't get them, you're just trying to get them to give you feedback, right? You're not even trying to close them as a customer right now. So you need to focus on how do you get to that response,
Okay.
right? And then on LinkedIn, you can look at common people that you have, right? So like start with the first, you have a filter. You could show only like, second degree of separation, and then see who you have in common with, again, like the goal is just to get one conversation. If you're doing a personalized outreach like that, where you're only looking at people that know Ilya, and I can
Mhm.
reference the fact that I know Ilya also, and I only reach out to 20 people that know you as well, it's going to be a lot easier for me to get a conversation with them than it would be if I just try to reach out to a random person.
Okay. So okay. So kind of focusing more on those closer to me in my network.
Yeah, again, like think
And
about trust, right? Are you going to
yeah.
trust somebody that you have no connection to, or are you going to trust somebody that one of your friends or your coworker introduces you to?
Okay. But ideally, they should be also my ICP, right?
It has to be
Or-
your ICP in addition
Okay.
to that. You
Yeah.
just, again, we're not talking, if we're talking about scaling, this is not necessarily scalable. Like we're not talking about doing
Yeah.
thousands of these, but to get to one conversation, like one call booked, this is what we're doing. This is the purpose.
Okay.
Okay. So I wouldn't say four. I mean, look, I think like getting to
Maybe.
one call booked is manageable. And I would say like if you're gonna do LinkedIn, you gotta hit the weekly threshold, which I think is like 40 plus LinkedIn connects. And again, if you're looking at each of those connection requests as like a token, right? One credit to play the game,
Yeah.
right? And you only get 40 in a week. Be thoughtful around how you use one of those tokens, right?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. All
Thanks.
right, Jag K.
Hey there.
Hey.
Chris, last week's goal was to
Yep,
get five.
double the engagement.
Yeah, I did double the number of TikToks I made 4 versus 2 previous week. But I didn't get the expected as I got 2 users last week. Previously, I got 3.
Okay, so you
So
double the effort, but you only got same thing.
yeah, a little less actually.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um,
Now,
think
this is only posting new content, right? So it's not, you didn't pay anything on TikTok to promote.
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did work with my influencer friend. She created a post. She didn't post it yet. She was waiting for. She said last week was back to post content, but I posted mine anyway.
Yeah.
She said she'd do it this week. Yeah, so I'm hoping that I still don't know what's I only posted 2 weeks so far, so still not sure what works and what doesn't. So I'm gonna lean on her this week to post for me. I might still do 1 or 2 this week.
Yeah. So, I
Um,
mean, I would do another 1 or 2, but basically, I would also look at the 2 that you used in the previous week,
Mhm.
and I would put maybe like do like a $10 test for each of them, and then
Okay.
just promote it at $10 for 1 week for each,
Okay.
like $20 total, and seeing if you can get users through that from a sheer pay to play, right? So like if you spend $10, how many users can you get?
Mm.
And then is there a differentiation between the 2 videos? Do you know how those other 3 users, like which video they came in from
Yeah.
originally?
Yeah, I do. I can correlate the dates.
Okay. So if you know, then maybe you don't have to do both. You only need to do one. Like if all 3 came from one video, right?
Mhm.
Then just do the one video. If it's unclear which one actually brought in the users, then split it, right? But if it's
Okay.
clear, then just do the one video and then just spend $10,
Yeah,
right?
I can do that. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
mirror the audience of the users that did sign up. So you're basically just trying to see if you are paying for wider impressions, if
Mm.
it's going to work to get users. Because if $10 gets you 100 users, right, then
Yeah.
that's a great ROI, right? If it's going to get you another 3, at least you know that. And then maybe like when you better understand the unit economics, that might still be viable, right? Like if you know that each user then equates to one page user is $50 a month. Again, I'm making up numbers, but like then it totally makes sense from a 5-to-1 ratio from a user, customer acquisition cost to LTV, like 50 to 10, like 5-to-1, it's going to make sense to spend, to acquire that.
Good. Yeah, I will try that.
Okay, so I would
Um,
do that. If you want to do this one person event, like that's fine too. I'm okay with doing a new channel, but I still want to validate or disprove this TikTok situation with you. So like
okay.
priority number one to me would be like, you know, um, promote like $10 either for
Okay.
okay, cool.
Yeah, one question I had is like, so this is basically I'm getting people to give me medical bills that I'll negotiate on their behalf.
Yeah.
I have um, I have one researcher from Rice University that I've reached out to, and she works on she's nonprofit researcher into the cost of medical care, and I've asked if she's asked if I could share her the medical bills I have. So I can do that with the consent of my users. I was wondering if I could use that as a trust signal um, for my product, basically. What do you think?
You mean so she's willing to be a beta user or
No, she wants the bills for her own research. Um, so I was thinking I could say we're collaborating with university research to get the cost of medical care down. Um, it's not directly related to reducing the specific bill for the user that they give me, but in general, she's doing research to get the cost of medical care down by looking at patterns across thousands of bills. So I can funnel my users' bills to her with the user consent. I was wondering if I could use that as a trust signal um, that we
I
are part of in research.
I mean I don't know how comfortable I guess I am with my medical bills being funneled around to different places.
Oh, with
I
the user consent, of course, yeah.
Yeah, with the user consent. So I don't know whose trust are you trying to get, hers or the user?
Users,
So
because they if they see that I'm partnered with Rice University in their research, it says I'm still thinking about pros and cons of this. I'm wondering what your take on this is.
Yeah, I mean, I would again like test it in these conversations, right? So it would be, any of these users that already signed up, like test it out and then just take 10 and do 5 where you mention Rice University, 5 that don't, and then see how they engage with you.
Okay.
Right? Always do that. Like for any of you guys that are trying to use anything that you're thinking about for social proof, for getting to the next step, for trust signal or whatever, like you don't know, right? You don't know definitively if it is, but you want to test it out. So always look at it as a test and just take a small sample set. Sometimes it might just be like, your first 3 conversations you have, everybody's like, yeah, I recognize Rice University. I'm okay with that. Like, and then it's a very easy indication. Like you don't even need to like do 3 more where you're not mentioning it, right? Because you're batting 100%. So just going forward, you're just going to use it, right? But I think it's just, again, you don't want to do it or don't do it if it's not getting the engagement that you want. Some people might have a bad experience with something that you think is great social proof, and your target audience may not actually think of as an asset or trust signal, and you're just making this thesis. And so, if that's the case, for whatever reason, that might happen sometimes, then like you're shooting yourself in the foot by just doing it. You know what I'm saying? So I would just get the validation first.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, Jason G.
All right. I haven't coded a website in 20 years and it got me. So got about half of the screens I was looking for. Learned with V0 that once you got past 5 screens, it kept changing prior stuff. So I had to do a lot of side research around Tailwind, Next.js, and everything to learn around design systems, centralize it. So I feel comfortable going forward to refactor the shared components. Mostly done with it as we speak. Quickly get a couple more screens in place paired with I have another co-founder conversation that's been going pretty deep now for about a month. If that's not finalized, I want to get a couple more conversations going, utilizing these screens as well.
Okay.
And I threw in links there to
Yep.
in case you want to look at anything.
Okay.
It'll be about 3 weeks overall from where we started. So I
Yeah.
initially was going to do more of the back end work because my background's the ML, the back end side.
Yeah.
So this has been getting myself up to speed on the front end.
Yep. Okay. All right, cool. And now you're getting closer to and somewhat of an MVP.
Well, it doesn't have a back end tied to it, so it's
Yeah,
still
I got
very
it.
much more of a mock.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure we use MVP the right way here.
Yeah. So it's still mock. When do you think by the end of this, like the next session, you'll be ready to start putting that in front of your target market?
That's the plan.
Okay.
It's a stretch. I want to hold myself to this one tough. I've already shared just the screens you have here with a couple of folks as well, just to make sure, because it's a lot. So if anything, I'm trying to reduce and get more specific as we go. But yeah, that's the plan, to utilize both for target ICPs, but also paired with co-founders and potentially to make sure I can accelerate that.
Got it. And then okay. I think the finding a co-founder is again still up to that's to me that's more of like a day-to-day, part of your thing, right? But I think like getting the mock-ups ready to present to your ICP, and then I would say like I want you to be very definitive with who your ICP is. So who you want to get this in front of ideally, right? So it's not going to probably be your TAM like that you would imagine from a year from now, but like who do you think who's the subsegment of your ICP or subsegment of your TAM that you feel is going to be able to utilize the most value and be able to like lean into what it is that you're proposing in the shortest amount of time possible.
For ICPs, do you have a recommend? So I'm going to paste in what I have so far here. It's more of a higher level one because, sorry, that's a prior paste thing. Copy. What I've been doing is using this. It's still a bit generic ICP, but I use that to then kick off 5 to 10 agents to get initial ICP feedback as I'm developing. So it's a way to quickly get feedback, but it's one on I'm guessing an ICP you need to be I don't know, more prescriptive, less? I'm kind of looking for guidance there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, um, again, like I don't think you need to overthink it, but to me, it's like
Okay.
finding find three LinkedIn profiles that match who you're trying to talk to.
Okay. That helped inform this writing here. So yeah, I can turn that around and
Right.
make that crisper.
So if we look at those three LinkedIn profiles that, again, doesn't have to even be me, but just somebody in this group could actually be like, oh yeah, I get who you're trying to target.
Okay.
Right.
It started with my own. I deal with like 7, 8, 9 interviews when you talk for like data science and machine learning organizations. It's brutal.
Yep.
But we'll expand that out. Okay.
Cool. All right, Justin W.
Yeah, so the goal was to get a meeting booked with the target ICP. I sort of did, but it fell into my lap, so I don't really count that one. But what I did was, like you said, kind of get a little more creative. The standard campaign stuff that I was doing, even though it was A/B testing, wasn't exactly working. So I engaged with their LinkedIn posts and tried to like and comment some things, trying to get some traction there and used Bordy, which is I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a platform on WhatsApp that connects people together. And so I used it to get connected with a couple guys in my ICP at private equity firms. And it sounds like one of the guys is willing to have a demo. Nothing's scheduled yet though, so I don't know. I give myself a B for for the results.
Okay. Okay. All right, so then your this week's goal is basically the same thing as getting to one meeting booked, right, with your target ICP. Um, that's fine. Again, I understand last week was a short week, and so it might have some of these metrics around getting, especially on like the more enterprise side or like, mid-market side is going to be difficult. Um, but that said, like I think this week, getting to one should be fairly easy.
Yep.
And I think, again, just you want to get what we're saying here is like not even converting a customer, but we just want to get somebody to commit to a time with you,
Yep.
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you have more creative ways? I mean, I could use your advice and your help. What are some other creative ways to get meeting, right? I heard you talking with one of these guys, go to the stores and talk to them. I can't really do that for SaaS. And I have a bunch of emails, I have thousands of emails.
yeah, I mean, again, depends on what you say, right? Like,
And,
uh,
and and related to what I say, A/B tested the both the body of the message as well as the subject, in kind of a grid, and found that it ranged from low 50s to low 80s open rate. So I'm going with like the low 80s. So people are opening it, or a firewall is opening it, um, but no one's doing anything with that.
yeah, so the message is not landing. I mean, again, I think that here we are in a place where you just need to figure out how to get somebody to, you know, take a meeting with you. And it's like one of the things I said earlier to somebody. It was just that, like, I think trying to strike a sympathetic nerve, you know, like, yeah, I don't know how else to do that. And that should be personal to you, and it should be personal to whoever's narrative it's coming from. If you're trying to do emails, tough because there's no face to the name. So nobody
Yeah.
knows, what I mean? It's like it doesn't matter if I'm saying like I'm dying tomorrow, like what I mean? Like nobody's gonna really probably care, and it's gonna be still like a lower conversion percentage than it would be if it was like on LinkedIn and I'm sharing these things and like, but I think however, or if like walking into a person in person into a store, like whatever, what is that version for you, right? Like, is it going to a conference or is it, sometimes that's what it's gonna be, or, like, um, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about private equities, like, I don't know, man. I mean, like, there's gotta be events that are that is somewhat tangential to who you're trying to target. Um, how do you get yourself into those rooms, right?
Yeah,
Where
there was a lot of them. There was LA Tech Week, and there was, I think, AA something. I don't know. That happened in, September, October. Not seeing a lot of stuff in December, but I agree. Those are how you corner those guys, right? And talk to them.
Yeah. So I mean, I would still try to figure out how you do that, but in conjunction to that, like I think LinkedIn would be something that's going to be viable, and you just need to. It's just what you say. Like you need to you need to come up with something that's sympathetic and forget about the ego and forget about what you think you know or forget how you want to present yourself. Like people only care about, people in positions that you're trying to get in front of will be open-minded or thoughtful, if you present yourself in a humility, a place of humility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll just keep working on the messaging. I saw Jason has his hands up.
Yeah.
Yeah, quick question for Justin. When you say
Yeah.
private equity, are you more in the late stage PE world or early stage VC?
It's more in the mid-market. So they have something, probably assets under management somewhere between 1 and 5 billion.
Got it. Yeah,
So it's not
it's
like the huge like Sequoias, KKRs of the world. It's also not the boutiques.
got it. Yeah, I spent a couple years at Cerberus Capital, so like that. It's on the bigger side. They're hard to break in, but the thought that came to my mind was more portfolio companies. They're the ones who really hold the budget. So if you can get into one or two of those at a portfolio company and they really like you, then it's easier to sell in to a PE firm. But just having run a data organization there, I would never respond to emails from people saying I have a solution that can do things for me. Like across the portfolio companies, it was always the other way around.
Okay,
I actually
I'll
good.
have
say
something to
different
say
time
about
now,
that.
but it's just it's different. Yeah.
Thank you.
I actually have something to say about that too, because I'm getting a lot of VC outreaches, because a whole bunch of them have invested in portfolio biotech companies that we can help. Because my company do FDA and regulatory approval strategy, and I have to say, some of the VCs have said, this will be a really great opportunity for their portfolios companies to engage with. And some of them have said, yeah, like, we'll spread the word and stuff, but the conversion so far has not been great, despite what they say. I'll
Mhm.
report back if anything changes.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Cool. Yeah. Again, I would just refine it to know your audience, but again, like strike something that's of an emotional nerve, right? And
Okay.
like that could be, I mean, it could be from the portfolio company standpoint, right? Like maybe the emotional nerve is financial, and that's fine, or like urgency, right? Or FOMO of some sort. How can you strike on those also?
Okay.
Yeah. Caroline M.
Hey,
Yep.
how are you?
Good.
Okay, so my challenge was to interview 5 people and find out why they don't want to pay for the Evite feature. I basically, there's not enough value in the Evite feature alone, which didn't surprise me at all. So, as I looked at the survey results and went through the interview results, I mean, there's an overwhelming pointer, I guess, that tells me that I really need to focus on the calendar coordination piece from, directly from the native text app. So that's the piece that I knew had to be done, but I've been sort of pushing it off because I knew it'd be a challenge. So that's the part that I'd like to work on this week.
Okay. Um, is that something that can be done in a week, or is it going to take something actually like more of a couple?
I think I can do it in a week.
Okay.
At least I'd like to give it a good try.
Okay. So I mean that's good. At least you had the conversations that you needed to validate what you're going to be spending effort on, and hopefully
Yeah.
that puts you forward to doing it sooner than later.
Yes.
Even though it was kind of like I get it, like it was something that's going to take a bit. So good. I think that's fine, and let's
Okay.
see if you can do this stretch goal.
Okay.
Cool.
Great. Thanks.
Yep. Cassie C.
Hey, can you see me? Hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, great. My objective for Thanksgiving week was to get my linear backlog all set up. I have access to offshore engineers through a company called SnapDev for a really low rate. And I've got a surplus of hours that I have not been leveraging because I've been having a hard time passing off my scope to
Yeah.
third parties, even though I'm a product person. Anyways, it's set up. I've actually been coding today, and I just need to kind of get it complete so that I actually can have tasks dev ready and start to really start leveraging that leverage. So that's last week. This upcoming week, I'm building an app for executive and leadership coaching. I've been able to have a lot of really great conversations with amazing people. I got last week a scheduled call with Jerry Colonna, who's like one of the top personalities in the space, written 2 books. He's known as the CEO Whisperer. So I'm chatting with him on December 10th. And he said, I'm aware of 2 other companies in this space, and one of them I'm close to, but not, part of. So if you're willing to chat, just to give you context, and I've been hearing that from a lot of VCs too, just like how crowded the space is. But when I get deep into my demo and what I'm doing, there is a clearer differentiation. And I think I want to go even narrower to like define more of a beachhead market that is very specific, where I can find, a really unique pain point and create some differentiation there. So that's part of my strategy focus. I also, to that end, have a founder, former Tesla exec, who told me he couldn't have survived without his coach. He's had the same coach for 5 years. Who told me upon our first meeting, he's like, I love your app. I think it's necessary, and this is how I'd want to use it with my leadership team. And then he went dark and was like, I'm fundraising, so I can't talk to you. They just reached out last week to set up time in mid-month this month. So my whole thing is like, I think this guy could be a really interesting design partner. And so I'm trying to just get things lined up where I can have a really great conversation with him. Last time we met was in office locally here in Santa Monica. And then that would be really ideal. Also, I have a coach that wants to use my app to launch her book, because I have a multi-sided marketplace situation going on. So I'm getting pull on 2 sides of the marketplace and exploring those. And then reaching out to my former CPO, Chief People Officer. Also, just she could be a potential angel, and she has a lot of like great contacts in this space and knowledge about it. So I realized I hadn't leveraged my network to the best of my ability. So I want to do that too.
Okay. I guess the only thing I would have is like, what does market validation look like for you?
So like my super ideal scenario would be to have funded founders sign up for this and buy the coaching program. My super ideal scenario would be to have VCs promote that. I've talked with Felicis, they're up in Menlo Park, and they set aside 1% of their funds for executive and leadership coaching for founders, and they've identified a leadership gap. So like my dream scenario would be to have like, VCs say, yeah, there's a leadership gap. That's a reason why a lot of these startups are failing or not doing as well as they could. And being able to use AI plus human coaches to close that gap is what my goal is.
Okay. All right. But I guess like from a tangible perspective, what do you need to prove that?
I mean, I need
Is that the form of an
coaches and
LOI?
clients using the app. Yeah.
Okay. How far are you away from being able to service that value through the app?
I'm calling it like 80% done with my MVP. I have a coach ready to dog food with me to test it for a few weeks before then. In January is my target to have coaches start using it. I have a wait list of about 15 coaches that are executive and leadership coaches for whom I've been doing discovery interviews and demos.
Can you leverage those 15 to get like 15 funded founders on the opposite side of the marketplace on
That's
some?
what I need to start doing. That is a clever observation, Chris, of a gap. Yes, really
Yeah.
good.
So I would try to set that up before January as well, right? So that you can launch with both sides intact.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even, this meeting coming up. So yeah, this
Okay.
other founder I'm meeting with. So it's always good to end every call with who else should I be talking to, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I think like if you have the coaches already, so you've got the supply, how do you generate demand? So how do you get that into a place where, yeah, ideally, you similarly have a wait list there. So, um, that to me, how many how many potential like customer calls do you have
on the
with
founder
founders? Yeah, on the
side,
founder side.
I've mainly been doing coach conversations um, because I feel like that's my in, right? I don't think a lot of these coaching apps work well when it's B2C and founders are C's, right? In the B2C
Sure.
concept. So, like people who are already spending a significant amount of money on coaches, spending, 5% more or whatever. I have to figure out my pricing
Sure.
still. But I think they have skin in the game, and that's where the highest ROI is going to be derived when they're already working with a coach. So, my initial strategy was to talk to coaches and then get coaches that were excited to use it with their clients. So that's what I've got
Got
the inroads.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, are you imagining that this is going to be something that is this going to be a tool that the coaches pay for, like a SaaS product, or is it going to manage their business, or is it going to be more for like new business?
So, yeah, I have a slide that specifically speaks to this, which I can share. But there's existing like marketplace apps, or there's like business in a box apps, right? That's not what I'm doing. And business in a box, like billing and
Sure.
scheduling, all that stuff, right? Then on top of that, you have marketplace apps, and marketplace apps, I think, are also there's just a limit on how much they can grow. Then the next stage of innovation, you have AI coaching apps, which I think are alone and especially as standalone aren't going to be able to drive LTV because, like I said, a lot of them are B2C, right? So I'm actually building a platform layer on top of that that has threads of all of those things, but it's bringing in AI and combining it with human coaching as well
Yeah.
to extract more value out of the human coaching experience.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I get it, but I guess like, what's the value for the coach? What are they getting
Yes.
promised?
Yep. So my main coach ROI is that it's going to save them time. I've had one coach who's a PE coach. She's like, yeah, this will save me hours a week. I see that automatically. It will also help them with their renewals because there's no ROI storytelling currently. So I want to put like quarterly auto renewals on autopilot through ROI storytelling of what coaching is actually impacting and then just driving further growth for their clients.
Okay. Got it. All right. Makes sense. I mean, I guess my initial thought is like, what out of all those three is the biggest thing that they're the most excited about?
I think the biggest question for coaches is the existential question is WTF is happening to my career with AI? And how am I going to be an AI forward and AI proof executive and leadership coach that's not going to be that's going to be wielding AI versus being at the, affect of it.
And how are you solving for that for them?
Yeah, I am taking what a client and a coach do, and I'm wrapping it in a bubble of context and AI support, and then ROI storytelling. So I have like a number of features around that make them that much more impactful and sticky in terms of their impact for clients.
Okay. Um, yeah. All right. I mean, I think you're going to need to find similarly founders that want that hybrid service, right? Of human and AI coach, probably leaning more on the human, but leveraging AI for boosting productivity or boosting whatever the right. So
Well, that's the
Um,
unique thing with this other founder that I've been talking to, and I want to work with him as a potential design partner because while he has his own coach, right, we weren't talking about that. He was literally like, look, I've got an amazing leadership team, but I know they're not firing on all cylinders. And I have functionality in my app that I call it, there's like a single player mode and then a multiplayer mode. So it's like, oh, I could level up my entire leadership team in terms of how they're communicating and working with each other in a way that drives more productivity. So
Now, in that case, though, right, that's like an interesting, then this becomes more of like a B2B, that's more of like a B2B situation, right? Where it's like you get like the leader, there's somebody senior leadership to adopt for the rest of their senior leaders or department leaders, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think you'll need to figure that out, but I think you need to have more conversations with founders to figure out, is this a one, like a B2C product, or is it more of like potentially like a B2B product that is most beneficial, from from a go-to-market perspective for you of who to focus on in the beginning.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Um,
Thanks.
and then Kathleen.
Yeah. So, the goal that we had set was get 3 appointments.
Mhm.
And so I did that. I sent a lot of outbound. I didn't really track it, but I think I lost count after like 20. And none of those really led to the booking. All the appointments I booked were through warm introductions. But I understand like it's a really busy time right now for 3PLs. Like Black Friday and Cyber Monday is their busiest time, so they're not looking to be sold software. Like that's
Sure.
the last thing they want. But at the same time, this is, billing. So it's like you're gonna, you either need us or you don't. So, and then I had a goal in there for my FPI, but I decided to scrap that because I don't actually really like working with that company. So I decided I'm not gonna put any additional time for it and whatever, whatever fallout that happens from it, happen. It is what it is, and yeah, I'll deal with it gracefully. But it's not like they paid me additionally more or anything like that. So yeah, so now it's about like, finding, I think they're just a wrong fit customer. They're just a wrong fit. So now it's about finding the right fit customer. So I did post in the group chat, like, someone that responds said, oh, this isn't our priority essentially, but could talk in January. So very lukewarm. So I think, the message, I think my problem right now is finding the businesses with this issue, which are probably swamped with work at now right now, but just the businesses that are having this issue that really need us. So because right now I'm just throwing out, whatever 3PL I could see, and I'm not really qualifying the profiles I'm doing. Just I am the only qualification I'm doing is like, is this a CEO, CFO, and are they a 3PL? And are they active on LinkedIn? So that's pretty much it.
Okay. So I think before you book the next three calls, I think you need to create a qualified leads list. So whatever that means, like I don't care if it's just manually finding 100 LinkedIn profile URLs and consolidating that into a single list, because it seems like you're able to generate outreach into calls, but you need to refine it on what's actually qualified. Is
Okay.
that correct? So I
Yeah.
think before you actually do the exercise of reaching out, let's just generate the leads list first of qualified. So you're working off of already a pre-qualified list for doing outreaches.
Okay. How do I would like to make a leads list of people who need billing help. What is the best way to source out businesses with this need? Besides them posting like, oh, I need help with my billing, which, usually, they complain about, the WMS not doing billing, but is there a way, like, is there a tool on LinkedIn? Like, I know that, I could, one thing that I've done in the past as worked before is one of the W warehouse management systems, they have really poor billing. So I've DM'd people that would, that followed the software or engaged with the CEO's post, and I actually got one customer that way. So I could repeat that again, but my concern is like I don't want, all of my customers right now to be those using that WMS because then it's like, it's a, how can I say this? just putting all your eggs in one basket. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to have customers that use, that have billing needs that don't use only use a WMS.
Yeah. Okay. So a few ways to do this. One is like get a list of companies that you think would match your ICP.
Okay.
And then so you're gonna probably need like a list of 1,000, right?
Okay.
List of 1,000 3PLs. And then out of those 3PLs, you're gonna have to start generating which ones are qualified. And if your qualified question is like, you know, I think you need to figure out what the backwards way of asking if they have a billing issue and they need billing help. So maybe it's like um, which WMS are you using?
Okay.
And then if you know that answer, you can discern whether or not, what I mean, like assume which ones are going to have a billing issue.
Okay.
And so that becomes the qualifying question, right? So you have your list of potential companies that have that billing issue. Now you need to qualify which ones of them have a billing issue. And how do you actually do that, right? And so if it's just knowing which WMS that they're using,
Hmm.
right, then that can be as rudimentary as calling them and being like, what WMS are you using,
Yeah.
right? And it could just be, you know, calling and asking that question to 300 and get 100 to give you an answer.
Okay.
And then
So
from that 100 that gives you the answer, then out of those, 50 qualify.
Okay, so maybe the route, so you're saying is the route, so what I've been sending in the DMs has been, mainly around billing. So maybe this time instead, the DMs I should be sending is what WMS are you using right now?
Yeah, because that's the way that you need to
Yeah.
qualify first before you propose your solution, right?
Okay.
Otherwise, you're pre-selling to somebody that may or may not have the problem.
Okay. So then what the fault, so like let's say they say, okay, I use extensive. I have a call for that tomorrow, actually.
Don't worry about it. Don't all your whole job is to create a qualified list.
Right, right. But I don't want to drop those leads. So let's say they say extensive, right? What
No,
does
no,
that
you do
on there?
drop those leads. So you don't even associate it to what you're doing now.
Oh.
Separate it as two steps. One is qualifying, the
Mhm.
other is selling to the qualified.
Okay. Step one. So
You're just qualifying. And
okay.
you don't even need to mention your company name, just being like, hey, I'm doing some research. I would just love to know which WMS you're using.
Okay, I am doing research. What WMS are you using? And then who would I state that? Because I don't want to burn that on the CEO. You know what I mean? Like, so would it be like an operations person?
Whoever probably picks up the phone, whoever is the easiest person to get that answer from.
Okay, first, easiest per most responsive. Okay,
Yeah, is that a receptionist? Is that the operations person? You know what I mean? Like who's going to give you that answer the fastest?
okay,
Because you
this
don't need a CEO to tell you that answer. You just need to know from the company's perspective what they're using.
okay. All right, cool. All right, that's very doable. I think I have like so many lists of like, I've built up lists over time and we've sent some cold emails, so I could go to that
You can,
list.
I mean, again, if you have a list of 1,000, like I would just create a Google form and be like, hey, we're just doing a research exercise on what's the most popular WMS. If you fill this out, I'll send you the report. And then just get them to fill it out and then tie it back, collect your emails so you can get them to send the report, but just be like, and then just make it so it feels like they're going to get something of value. So don't just be one-sided, but be like, what do you love or hate about your WMS system? Anything ideally like tie it back to what's going to give you insights and but also like what can create valuable market insights for them, realistically, like what would they love to know? Because a
Okay,
lot of whoever you're talking to is probably operating as silo. They're like they don't know if what they're doing is right or wrong. They don't know if everybody else hates their WMS. They don't know if like they are all dealing with the same bullshit or like if they all actually love it, right? It's like so maybe you can create some kind of study for that while qualifying and then just drive people to that to fill it out because then they're motivated to fill it out because they're going to get some report from it and what I mean so like do stuff like that.
okay, that sounds good. That's actually really smart, and I'm glad you mentioned it because like, right now people are super busy with the holiday season. They're, important. So, the last
Yeah,
thing
but like
this
like that's the thing,
this
right?
is
So like
helpful
super
because
busy with the holiday season though, but
yeah,
that might be helpful. That might be an in, right? So like your
yeah.
in could be, hey, do you feel stressed out this holiday season? Do you want to know how you're stacking up compared to the rest of the market year over year?
Yeah, like
Like, do you want?
which 3PLs are like doing well and which aren't, and like the ones that are doing well, like what WMS are they using, you know? Because they
Yeah,
do
again,
compare
like,
notes. They compare
yeah, again,
notes.
like,
They
figure
do.
out a way to do it where you're providing value back to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
It's got to feel like you're giving them something of value.
Yeah.
So, like, what can you do? And everybody's going to be busy right now, but it's like I would take time out to be like, is everybody else as busy as me? Do they have the same stresses that I'm stressing about? Meaning, like, are things getting here on time? Are people dealing with tariff issues like we are? Like, is
Yeah.
that creating instability? Like, you
Mhm.
know, I know that I have a friend that's in, import export, and like that's a big concern right now. It's like their profit margins and their cash
Yeah.
flow is largely affected by tariffs. Like,
Hmm.
can
Hmm.
you create some report that allows people to not feel so alone and like get some visibility around how everybody else is dealing with it?
Yeah,
'Cause
that
if you
makes a lot of
can,
sense. Yeah.
you can get engagement probably from these people.
Okay, yeah, I could just call it, hey, I'm launching a survey. I've spoken to a lot of 3PLs and getting a lot of mixed responses about how their WMS has performed this year. Just and then I'll just say,
Figure it out how you can get something selfishly out of it, but also feel like the hero.
well, yeah, just be like, I'm gathering information, and then if you participate, you're gonna help other 3PLs like get, know what works, and then I'll share the results so that, you'll know what WMS is actually working for people on the field. So, you know,
Yep.
and then I'm not a WMS, and I'm not trying to build a WMS because I have no interest in one. I'm
Yep.
just genuinely curious because I'm on the money side. So, that's it. Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense, and it's low stakes. And I think like I actually had a 3PL respond to me, and they're like, well, we're just trying to find more customers right now. So I did introduce them to one of my partners. Like I do have partners that have given me leads too. So
Yep.
definitely, I could also send them this. I could ask them like, hey, could you send this? Because I have a lot of partners that have different 3PLs that they're connected to. So it's
Yep.
like that's even better because then it's like, oh, like they might have like six 3PL customers. And so already like that would make my outreach. So what I'm saying is like I'm already connected to a lot of 3PLs and partners who have customers as 3PLs. So I could just hit that network, and just,
That's fine. Yeah. Again, create that qualified list.
okay, sounds good. Thank you. So,
Christopher,
so the goal next week is no calls. It's all getting people to fill out survey.
don't even yet, not even the filling out survey, but getting them to fill it out. Great, get a qualified leads list. I don't care if it's 10 qualified leads or like 100, but figure out the process to get them qualified.
Okay, okay, got
And I
it.
don't care if it's like if you send out the survey and you're not getting anybody to fill it out because it's probably his wording's off, you need to call people. There's just no excuse to not get any qualified.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
All right. Christopher N.
Hey, Chris.
Yep.
Hey, so I did the Google form I sent on the WhatsApp. Honestly, it's kind of lengthy. It's like 30 questions. I'm not sure if it's appropriate because we're like 30 minutes over time. But before I hop into that, I wanted to share kind of like what you mentioned earlier about my hypothesis because like you were talking about the reason why you send these surveys is to validate like a theory that you're trying to have. Do you think it would be helpful if I shared those hypotheses with you now or show you the Google form, or what do you think is the most appropriate for this?
Yeah, I mean, I think like so 30 questions is way too much. Like ideally it's 5 to 10, right? So everything has to have intent. Most of the times when you have 30 questions, it can be you could probably bucket 3 to 4 questions just by like the way that you word it to get the same answers that you're trying to get across 3 to 4 in one. So I would do that. Understand like what is this going to help me do to again either drive more revenue, meaning acquire customers. That's got to be the bottom line.
Mm.
So what are you saying to do that? All right, that's the question part, and then I think like the hypothesis you can share that here. I think you go back to the drawing board to figure out those questions. If you're really getting stuck, like categorize the questions, right? So like go through the exercise where it's like if you think everything is valuable, like break it down so you create maybe 2 to 3 categories of what you think like usually it's going to be like the way that I look at a survey, it's going to either be like profile related questions, meaning like it helps me qualify who the ICP is, meaning like I need their job title, I need the company, size and stage of the company, industry, those are questions, right? So those are, but usually you can probably get away with just a LinkedIn URL and then
Yep.
you do the homework of it, right? Um, Instead of asking all those other questions I just mentioned. So there's
Sure.
profile, which related to ICP. Then there's the pain point that you're solving for. So you're basically trying to get them to validate the pain point and then give you an understanding of how big of a pain it is. Usually that can be two questions, right? Like, are you dealing with XYZ pain? On a scale of 1 to 5, how big of a pain is it? Like, or one question, right? Obviously, some solutions are a little bit more deeper than that. And then the third part is going to be like, is your well, if you like, it's basically like figuring out. It's kind of related back to the pain point threshold, but it's like figuring out if somebody's going to be willing to pay for your solution. If there was something that did X, Y, and Z, would you pay X, Y, and Z for it?
Exactly.
And that's really it. I mean, those are the three categories, and it has to fall into one of those three.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the question I was trying to ask, or the hypothesis, is like what you mentioned earlier about a lot of businesses struggling with top of funnel. So that was like the question I was trying to answer, or try to get their answer. And then also due diligence, especially for brokers, is really hard and it costs a lot of money. So I was trying to those 30 questions, trying to weave that into that. So I can go back and try to bucket them into something smaller.
Yeah.
Cool.
And this is like a perfect exercise for like chat, dude, like or like some AI tool or anyone that you're familiar with, right? Like drop in those 30 questions and be like, help me categorize these things. Again, like those three are my topics that I tend to bucket them under just when I'm doing these exercises. And but you can choose to use those three or have chat create the different categories for you. And then, walk it through. So don't just ask it to do it, but walk it through so you can understand the logic, right? Of like the steps that you want that you can kind of go through it. So if you wanted to do it again, you could do it without the use of AI, right? So like, but walk through the steps of like, how do you dumb it down? Why are you dumbing it down this way? And just have that back and forth so you can learn from the exercise and don't rely on the outcome, but like engage with it so you can approve the stages of it ultimately getting to the outcome that you need, which is
Perfect.
simplify it.
Perfect. No, that makes sense. And my last question is, since I'm kind of starting out fresh, is it best to kind of do like a spray and pray if I'm doing like reaching out to brokers, or should I just segment it to like the top 10 brokerages over in California and then try to reach out to those types of people? Because generating a lead list is pretty easy, in my opinion. It's just figuring out how like what's the messaging to reach out to them and what they're offering or what the offering is. So
Um, I would say again, I would first get 5 to 10 people to fill it out, like your survey or your questionnaire, and see if it makes sense. Does the data come back and be like, yep, this makes sense. I want just 1,000 more of these. Um, but if you get like 1,000, the data's all over the place and it doesn't like, then you're kind of just, you just burn through a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of responses for not getting something that's usable.
okay, no, that makes sense.
So I would just do the non-scalable thing, and this goes for everybody, which is just keep in mind to always do the non-scalable thing first, just to get some confidence that if you do the scalable thing, that it's going to make sense to do it, and you're going to get the outcome you want. Otherwise, you just burn through a lot of energy, time, money, resources, other people's time to like get bunch of back a bunch of like unusable data.
Yeah, makes sense. Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
Yep. All right, Emily K.
She also left like
Yep.
30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
All right, no worries. Bodie B.
Hey, so I was last week I thought I'd focus on building yet another list and sending out emails, but what happened was the couple of demos we did, they immediately showed interest and they wanted to do trials. So I think like I've shifted my focus this week. We started one trial today. I already have scheduled another meeting to set up another customer with a trial.
So how
Uh,
many conversations did you have last week that you're now trying to move to trials?
Um, in the last couple of weeks, I've done 12 demos, and I think the best use of my time would be to
Sure. So
at
how many of
least
them want to
try
do
to
trials?
So far, three of them have wanted a trial, and I'm trying to get at least half of those demos to convert into a trial. My
Yeah.
goal is to get at least one paid white label customer before the end of the year.
Okay.
So I'm doing a demo tomorrow, which is a second round of demos, but this time it's with a CEO and his sales team. And so I'm thinking like, and correct me, like, or like check me. What I'm thinking is that as I go into these demos, I want to end the demo by saying like, hey, we have a demo accounts ready for you. Like, do you want to start your trial today? Instead of like following up with them and saying like, hey, you want a trial, like just end the demo call with starting a trial.
Yeah. Okay. I would say that you need to, so basically you need to get as many people into trials this week so you can realize if your goal is to get one paid customer by the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
You need to give them like probably up to 2 weeks to realize the value and make it sticky enough so that you can charge them,
Okay.
right? So you need that if you're looking at it from that perspective where you need that window of time to generate the value, um, you probably have this week really to kind of get them in. So whatever that means to get them in, to then get them the value that they, so how do you, I guess that's, how are you proposing on doing that? Like, what does a trial mean? What does it look like? How does
Well,
onboarding have to
so the
work?
one we started today, we set them up with an account and they were like, oh, how long is the trial? I was like, a week. And he's like, well, could it be longer? I was like, yeah, sure. It's negotiable. I won't like cut your access off after a week. Um, but you're right. It could be that they need a longer period of time. I was just thinking that given that for most businesses, this month is like the shortest month of the year, most businesses probably work like 3 weeks and then everyone's checked out and going away for the
Depends on
holiday.
what business you're in, right?
I'm sorry.
Depends on what business you're in. If you're a jewelry
Sure.
store owner, right? Like that, and that might, if you're a jewelry store owner, you're probably busy, right? The other guy is saying. So
Yeah, I mean, we're focusing on like all telecom providers
yeah.
and, these people want to white label our platform. And half, like, I don't know, quarter of them were like, well, we won't look at anything until the beginning of this year. So I'm
Sure.
already like writing those people off. Um, but there are people that actually just like I got an email today saying like, hey, we want to do a demo and we want to do a trial. So I just want to focus on either I've been doing like follow-up emails every Monday, but I'm gonna like even just call them tomorrow and be like, hey, do you want to start a trial? Let's get you
So
into a
I
trial.
would, yeah, I mean, I would try to get this. The goal is to get, yeah, get 3 to 5 trials in this week, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And then you're gonna need and I would set it up for 2 weeks. I would just be firm with 2 weeks.
Okay.
And if somebody wants it longer, just be like, well, we can do an assessment after 2 weeks. You know what I mean? But the goal is to then be able to upsell them. And within the 2 weeks, you're creating urgency for yourself to drive as much value as possible for them so that they will buy,
How do I do that?
making sure that they use the product,
Okay.
right? How do you get somebody to have high usage of your product?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of them that actually want to use it for themselves in addition to white labeling it. So those are like our ideal customers because they get to dog food it before they sell it to their own
So how do
customers.
you make sure that they get a great experience?
Well, I actually set up a voice agent for them already so that they can start using it.
Yeah, I get it. But like, what is that? What is success going to look like for them?
That they're, I guess, maybe, I mean, if they're able to deploy it for their own after hours support or something like that, which is what they want.
Okay. Now, if nobody uses it for after hours support, right? Like nobody calls it. Is it going to be successful or no?
Well, they get they get a huge volume of calls. So, I mean, if they point the phone number and have people call it, people are going to call it.
So how do you ensure that they guess that's I'm trying to get to that. How do you ensure that they point that number out?
That's a really
So,
good question.
so how do you walk them through that step so you know when you leave the conversation that has been set up in that way so that they can realize the value. So by the time you say 2 weeks from now, you know that somebody's gotten on average 50 calls a day using that tool, right? You can go in with confidence and be like, look, dude, we got to start charging you. And they're
Right.
going to be like, yep, okay, makes sense because you solved 80% of the problems that happens after hours. Right? But if you don't know what that is, or you don't even know that they set it up correctly, right? But you know that they're averaging 50 calls a day, but then you look at it in 2 weeks and it's like none because
Right.
they didn't point it in the right direction to that number. Who's that on? Not them.
Oh yeah, it's definitely on me. That's why I set it up so that I have access to the demo account and I can like review it and monitor it. So if they haven't started using it in 3 days, I'll ping them and be like, hey,
Well, like again, to that point, it's like, how can you again, like what does that step need to look like, right? Where they are pointing it out and they're sharing it because they're the distribution for that phone number. So how do you ensure that they distribute it, right? Maybe that's like giving them an email template. Maybe that's giving them, this is the language to copy and paste to send out to everybody. So for after hour support, but whatever it is, you need to make it as simple as easy for them to almost just do a click and point. Sorry, point and click kind of thing, right?
yeah,
So,
I think it all boils down to their confidence level in the platform that it can actually,
of
field
course.
those calls.
To that point, how are you going to get a paying customer if they don't feel confident?
Right.
And so how do you get that? That's to me is like the biggest hurdle. You have to get that, overcome that.
So how do I define their expectations and meet those expectations, basically?
Yeah, and then walk them all the way to the finish line.
Right. Okay. I definitely need to noodle on that.
Yeah. You need to make sure that they're using that they're distributing that number so that it can get you can realize the value for them.
Okay.
Whatever that means. That seems like that's going to be the biggest hurdle for you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Busola.
Hey Chris, hi, how
Yep.
you doing?
Good.
Good, thank you. Okay, so my task for the week was to create social media accounts, TikTok and Instagram, and also to start creating content that will be posted on a regular basis. And the second task was to embed the ICP survey form on the landing page at roundify.com. So the results are the ICP form is already on the landing page and with responses saved in a Google Sheet as well. So I've tested that and it works. Now, my question very quickly, I think it was Christopher that was asking about the number of questions. I have 14 questions there on that survey form. And I think 10 to 11 are required. I don't know whether that's too many questions. They all seem to be pretty relevant, but again, I don't know whether that's too many.
Well, basically, you're going to have to see how much traffic you can drive and how much of that traffic actually converts, right? If you send 100 to that page but zero convert, then obviously it's maybe too many questions. Maybe you have to dumb it down at that point to maybe 5 or 6. So find the right balance, drive another 100, see if you get conversion. You know what I mean? Like that, play with that number. 14 is not crazy, but again, like if you feel like it's intentional and everything is going to help you drive some kind of like understanding, then do so. But otherwise, yeah, you need to just start driving traffic to it.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I mean, looking at the questions myself, honestly, I felt really engaged. So, so I'm hoping, the users will
Yeah.
feel the same way.
Okay.
And then the second thing I did also was I created a TikTok account, and then I haven't posted anything yet, but I researched on how to create content using CapCut.
Yep. Okay,
And then
great.
the plan going forward is to post 5 TikTok contents, to make 5 posts this week. And then also the second plan is to create a database of 25 to 30 VCs that are in the fintech stroke AI space using LinkedIn. So I'll do the research on LinkedIn and then create a database of them, and then later on reach out to them one by one, requesting a connection by making reference to the work they're already doing in the fintech space.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
That's fine. I think I think first up is just to create these posts and get them live. Start driving traffic to the forum. If you do all that exercise but nobody fills it out, then it's a moot point. Yeah.
Okay.
So the goal here is to actually get people to fill out the form. So you need to figure out how to get the right traffic to get the fill outs,
Yeah.
the completions.
Yeah.
So that's the priority.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Alex M.
Hey,
Hey.
long time. Sorry I missed last week. Had a bunch of calls. We did get into NVIDIA's office. That went pretty well. They're probably signing on as our first like proper enterprise client. Found a kind of a niche around helping people upskill and retrain who are existing engineers but don't trust the AI tools very much. Usually there's like some user error in actually using the tools. So that seems to be a really good niche for us. Took that over to Accenture and got our contact there warmed up again. Hopefully closing something there this week now that he's back from Thanksgiving. Um, also we kind of noticed that like the very large enterprises or small like 2 to 3 hacker teams seem to be our fit. Um, Trying to translate that into bringing that like indie hacker energy into these large organizations and giving them like the same breadth and comfort that these like earlier stage teams seem to have with AI tools. And that seems to be going over fairly well. Also made contact with someone at Google DeepMind's lab who's working on something similar to us, so that's kind of cool. And they seem interested in collaborating because we're doing a bunch of Gemini models. So all in all, that side seems to be going pretty well. Big moves for this week is going to be trying to bridge the trust gap and getting more of these kind of signal type partners and coordinators. We've been trying to get a bunch of our existing users and partners to help us promote things on social media. So we're probably going to do a big push either this week or probably next week at this point, where we're going to try to get a bunch of those signal people to talk because that seems to help the trust. Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess when you say bridging the trust gap, is that specific? Is that going to be? You mentioned like 2 different ICPs, like enterprise, and then like 2 to 3 person like growth hack teams.
Yeah, so the product that we offer is a tool that allows you to view all of the analytics from Quad Code, Cursor, and Codex, like these vibe
Yeah.
coding tools.
Yeah.
And it makes you more proficient in using the tools because we give you feedback and educational steps. Seems like that's a pretty good fit for NVIDIA and some of these other organizations we're talking to, like Accenture, that have a large team that they're trying to upskill. The other group that's had really, really good feedback, which is even like much warmer than what we're getting from the enterprise products, is these kind of like indie hackers with like 2 or 3 person teams who are just running really fast and want to keep track of what they're doing. The product that we have it can touch both groups, so it's not like we need to focus particularly on one and optimize the product for them. I think the enterprise deals will probably be able to do some serious consulting work as well. I had people coming into the office all day while I was at NVIDIA asking me how we use these tools, which is pretty cool. So I had like 5 or 6 really deep conversations with them, and they seem pretty keen. But it's the same energy in both places where you've got engineers who are trying to do more with their time. And we're just kind of trying to figure out how to leverage the most public view of that. So like the enterprise deals give us like the security of like, this is a trustworthy product. They're not going to steal all my shit, or they're not like, data mining me so they can train AI. And the indie hackers, aside from that hesitation that we might be data mining them, are otherwise like really excited to use the product. So that's where I'd say like the trust gap is kind of the missing piece where we need to really start talking about the privacy tools that we use and how we keep it and keep your data secure and that kind of thing.
Okay. And so, I mean, out of all those, who's paying right now, or who's on the trial?
We have like 20 people on paid trials. Nobody's actually converted to like the paying mode yet. Or there's like 3 people that have paid just because they want to support the project, but they're not like serious paying customers.
Okay. So what's the next step, I guess, from the enterprise side or from these indie hacker groups to get them to cross that line of becoming a paid customer?
Not 100% sure on the indie hacker groups. I think the problem right now is we need these like tastemakers who can talk about what we're doing. They're very bullish on the product, and like most of them have said that they would pay. We're giving them free trials because we haven't worked out all the kinks yet, so we don't want to start charging them and we kind of ruin the relationship too early. On the enterprise side, it's just like a longer sales cycle. So the NVIDIA deal, I would imagine we're probably going to lock in like a beginning of a trial by the end of the year. And then assuming that that goes well, then we'll be able to really talk that up next year. But yeah, the enterprise deals, I think the sales cycle is quite a bit longer. So having like consumers that move faster is easier for us. And getting them onto free trials and getting them using the platform gives us the feedback we need kind of.
Okay.
The
So
uh, the the draw to NVIDIA is that there's a bunch of consumers who are ahead of the curve and that NVIDIA needs to catch up. And the draw to the consumers is this is trustworthy because NVIDIA is there. So it's like this like chicken and the egg kind of problem.
got it. Okay. All right. So I guess like bridging the trust gap, what tangible outcome are you looking from that effort?
The idea is to do kind of like a launch week, try to get as many people as we can to positively talk about the platform so that their friends will take that as a recommendation and believe that we're not hacking them. Also spent, because last week was pretty slow, we spent most of the week on messaging. So we did the YC pitch about 120 times and we got our video down to 1 minute, which was a huge achievement. It started at like 8, so it was a long one. We also redid the homepage and a lot of the like content and branding to be a little bit more professional. So we got rid of things that were like kind of like AI cues, things that looked like, if you went to the homepage and you saw like, pink to orange gradient, then you're like, oh, this is probably something written by AI, so it's probably sloppy code. So that seems to be kind of an appealing one. We are also running a campaign where we're going to be offering anybody who uses the platform the opportunity to get access to the open source code. So if they actually become a power user of the platform, then we'll give them access to the code early before we open source it to the rest of the community. I think talking about those kinds of things will start to reinforce to people that this isn't a data mining project and like we are actually pretty like open source ethos and friendly to developers. We're not just trying to like rip them off. I think the caveat so far is people don't want to pay for something that might be data mining them because then they're like really getting fucked over. And so rather than like cucking our audience and making them pay us before they trust us, we'd rather them trust us and then they can pay us later. Does that
Yeah.
kind of make sense?
Yeah.
I would appreciate feedback on that structure. That's the one piece that's tricky right now. Otherwise, we get really good feedback, but it's like, how do we get from really good feedback, this is a cool product, to like everybody being like, oh, this is my default way to do this,
Yeah. I mean, that's going to take yeah, I mean, to me, that's going to be an evolution of how your product's going to grow, right? And then like the usage and understanding how users actually behave with it. But I think like building the trust gap, what I'm trying to get at is like, what does that mean, building the trust, like bridging that gap, right? It's like, to me, it would mean bridging that trust gap means that you talk to like, 10 deals on the enterprise side that's been in the pipeline and you figured out the language to get them to commit to a pilot, right? Or
That's
you
that's
figure,
kind of how we're approaching it. Yeah, there is. If you click on the cell, there's a bunch written inside of there
yeah,
as well. Um, that's the general idea. It's partially like branding and copy on the website,
yeah,
which like we're trying to iterate on that like every day. But then I think the other side of it is like outbound communication and getting that communication echoed by the right people so that it's coming across as something that is well thought out and not just like a slap together vibe coded project.
yeah, I understand.
I think that's roughly the idea, though. Kind of grinding on that. And there's a few things like YC as well that I think will send like a large trust
Yeah.
signal. We're also doing a bit of a sprint to get logos on our website from partners and things like that. And then like also trying to get those partners to aggressively use the tool. So it's a bit of a balance of both those.
Yeah. That's fine. I mean, I think that's fine. Like getting all the social proof you can kind of gather, that'll be good. I think then, what I'm imagining next week is that also I mean between now and next week, in addition to generating that list of social proof, would just be maybe generating like a list of, your top 50 enterprise targets and with the I mean, how do you target like the indie those 2 to 3 like independent like hacker teams? Like how do you find those groups?
They tend to show up at hackathons, so that part's actually been pretty easy. We register for all the hackathons, we hand out stickers.
Okay, got it.
So we've got about 100 of them that attend a weekly event that we run. And so there's a pretty good cohort there that we're like very confident like the product and are interested. The harder part has been figuring out which specific part of the messaging is like the important part there. Because initially we marketed it as like a clippy kind of, hey, install this and it'll help you. And then we're trying to figure out like specifically what do they want help with and trying to segment them like that.
Okay.
Yeah, segmenting them has been hard though, because they say a lot of different things, and then it's not really exactly clear which thing is the most important.
Okay. I understand. Then, I mean, again, if that's, do you have an email list for the hackathon group?
Yep. Yeah, we have about 350 emails on that list. And they're engaged, but like most of those people don't check their email that much. We also have them in our Discord channel, so we've been trying to leverage that more, and then trying to get them to like follow through from there. But they're the kind of people where like they will show up for an event on Wednesday, and then when we send them a DM afterwards, being like, "Hey, have you tried our product yet?" Then it feels like we're shilling, which is kind of annoying. It's like an anti-shill kind of community, you know?
I understand. I get it, right? So, which is fine. It just then how do you, again, from a business perspective, like then how do you, is that going to be a viable audience for you when you are looking to, what I mean, like build out
Yeah.
your your
What
pricing
I'm kind of
model?
thinking from there, we've been talking through this with some of the ones that are closer to the project, and like the more they talk to us and hear about all the cool stuff we're doing, then the more excited they are to use it. Um, the reason for that, or like the reason I'm bringing that up is that I think probably the way to do it is to lead them with good news and examples and like regular updates. And then like the more that they see updates, then eventually they're like, oh, I do want to try this because other people are already doing it. There's sort of a bandwagon effect that we're trying to figure out.
Okay. All right. I mean, let's put
Actually,
together
I might
that.
revise my post and say, figure out the bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is figure out all the social proof you can leverage, who it's going to be potentially important for, and then let's go from there.
Sure. Thanks.
Yep. Cool. All right, I think that's it for everybody. I'll get a summary out to you guys in the next couple of days. We'll check back in next week. Appreciate you guys' time.
If you didn't go,
Cool.
what happens next?
Oh, Ryland.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chris.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
So thanks.
Yeah, it was out last week.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, why don't we go through it real quick right now? So why don't you go through what you're able to cover and then what you would like to do for this week?
Yeah, last week was a focus on my ICP. So I've gone through all the clients that I've worked with. We've had good relationships. So basically, the best clients are growth stage teams where they don't really have the SEO systems in place. They have issues with oops, I'm signed out for some reason. I'm just gonna go based on. Sorry, I'm having sign-in issues right now. Uh, Thanks for your patience. So yeah. Yeah, my focus last week or the first week was to get to figure out my ICP. Basically, these are I thought it was like anybody. My target is all over the place. So growth stage teams that are they need to integrate SEO into their system. They usually have like debt with content creation or they're interested in their emerging LM visibility. So I think the work was baked into refined to what are the subsegments. So these are companies that have visibility gaps
Yep.
in organic search. LLMs are the emerging thing. And then companies that have a higher focus on paid spend. So I'm talking to a potential client right now, and this is typically the pain point that they have, which is they're doing a lot of spend on paid search. They've had some pretty great growth with that. They want to reduce their CAC. So that was the third one. I don't know why there's misspellings in here, but CAC reduction is the primary focus, and they're also missing any sort of internal SEO systems, or they've gone through SEO thought leaders, and now they want somebody who's a little bit more tactical and actually can implement some of these things. So these are the pain points that I identified from the work that I've been doing with clients in the past over the years, but these are just some recent ones. But basically, they have poor bottom funnel performance. It's mostly just branded traffic, and they really don't know what they're doing in this space. So they're seeking some guidance and actual execution. That's my primary differentiator from most people in my industry are they'll provide you with like recommendations, and then that's it. My work, the part that I enjoy the most is actually helping companies actually get these things done, setting up measurement, doing the analytics. So I think my target wasn't very focused, and this refinement I think helps with that focus.
Okay. So then going forward for this coming week, now that you have this understanding, what are you hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, trying to find actual clients that fit these profiles, whether it's through Portco, researching with a couple of Portco backends that I'm actually have access to, researching. I'd like to find startups here in the LA area who are viable as well, and searching them online. But also, one of the things that came up during this session is I've been doing a lot of self-promotion, but it's had like really terrible performance in terms of like actual potential clients. It's mostly just been people in my industry who are um, interested in finding out more about my tactics and techniques, and then also people trying to sell me things. So I'd like to figure out a way to sales is my weakest point right here, trying to find clients that actually are a good fit. So I think the strategy is to take these subsegments and focus on companies and do the type of reach out that I've been doing with these specific needs with some of the research. But I feel like I'm putting the cart in front of the horse, so to speak, with some of these clients if I haven't even had like an initial ping from them, like they're actually interested in any sort of these services.
Yeah. So I guess like the first thing would be generating a leads list. Second
Yeah.
step is qualifying that leads list, right? So like understanding if they actually do have the pain that you're solving for. So I think yeah, before we even get into how do we qualify, like again, some of the stuff like these qualification forms, surveys, things like that, like the first thing is to just generate a leads list. Like how are you going to get that list together?
Okay. Yeah, one of the ways that I could do that is finding these companies in the aforementioned portcos, but LinkedIn research based on proximity and also based on, you mentioned the network effect. That's really where all the referral work has been coming for me. So finding people who are in my network or second connect, and finding those companies that meet these criteria and turning those into a list. That's something that I can do and take on this week.
Yeah, that's what I would focus on. And then that way next week we can focus on the qualifying part.
Cool. What do we like? I mean, obviously, the more leads, the better, but what's a realistic target? I'm thinking like at least 20 qualified potential leads to discuss further, right?
Well, let's see what's the number that you need. I would shoot for like 100, and then
Okay.
from there we're going to figure out how to qualify and what actually percentage of
Got
those
it.
actually qualify, right? So I think the first thing is to generate like a leads list. The second thing is going to be thinking about like what are the qualifiers and the answers that meet the qualification criteria that you would need,
Okay.
right? Does that make sense? Some of
That
that
does
may
make
not
sense.
be publicly available, so it might take some digging to get in that information, or it might take engagement to get that information or that intelligence from them, right? Like, but we need to first generate the list.
Got it. Sounds good.
Cool. Awesome.
Chris,
Thanks,
thanks
man.
for your time. I appreciate it.
Yep. All good.